Shalom, shalom, family. Welcome to another Torah review. Shabbat shalom to everyone out there. My name is Zurishaddai. I'm one of the teachers of congregation BINAH, CHOKMAH, BINAH, also known as D.C.B, located in the Red Hood section of Brooklyn, New York. We give glory to the creator of heaven and earth, Yehudah, who has allowed us all to be here this evening, tonight. And I'm grateful to this mighty King for my life, food, clothing, and shelter, knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. It is currently 7:05 p.m. Eastern Time, so this is actually a live Torah, Haftarah review. And I'm grateful to the Most High God that we're able to do these shows. And I'm thankful that the Most High God has put within the spirit of the teacher of this segment, even Nasik Zurishaddai ben Yehudah, the spirit and the strength to be able to carry on and do this. As this past week or last week, it was his 70th cycle around the sun. So let's all leave him some well wishes for his entering his, I guess, his 71st year now. He already passed his 70th year, so he's into his 71st year. Let's all leave him some well wishes and pray for him and bestow some blessings upon him. So I'm thankful to the creator of heaven and earth, and I pray that the Most High God will continue to be with us all and bless us. Hallelujah. With that, we're going to move straight ahead, and I will introduce Nasik Zurishaddai ben Yehudah. How are you, Nasik?
All right, great. For a guy that's 10 and counting. First of all, I'd like to give praises to the Supreme Eternal Universe, God of my forefathers, God of Abraham, God of Isaac, God of Jacob, and due respect to the platform on the D.C.B platform, Chief Prince Yariel ben Yasaska, to the host Chief Uzael, to the Prince's Chief Kohanim, the rabbis out there, Marine, brothers and sisters, I greet you all in the tongue of my forefathers. Shalom Aleichem, Shabbat Shalom. And I'll be covering Ki-Tisa, the Haftarah Ki-Tisa. But I just like to, since I didn't get the opportunity to be able to share some things in Tisa way, I like to just highlight some points that I find remarkable, to myself. And dealing with the priestly garment. And it talks about when we started off earlier in Teruma, we talked about offerings and we were told about what it's supposed to be and what it's going to entail. Then it focused on the priestly garments and what the priests wear afterwards when we proceed through the Sidra. And what's interesting is when it gets to Tisa way, well, in Teruma, they talk about the furnitures and everything else in the tabernacle. But as Chief Uzael brought out last time I spoke about the altar and incense, it's not even mentioned within that detail there. So, I think if I recall correctly, I may mention that it was, stuff in the beginning, and, probably going to know they're going to sin, whatever the case is in that area. But also, I like to just add another detail in there is that when we get into the next Sidra, and talk about the priestly garments, as this is one area where the priest going to be mostly doing a lot of function as well. But the altar and incense has a dual purpose, which is stated in Tisa way, whereas everything else basically one solid purpose. But the altar of incense picks up a dual purpose, and also has become a statute for the priesthood. And since Tisa way tends to speak more on the priesthood and his particular role and his functions, and it'd be appropriate for one of the most holy items that he could deal with every day would be the altar incense, to be the sealing, where he started in the beginning with the altar. I mean, with the Aaron Kodesh, the holy ark with the tablets within it. Now, what's interesting, I just want we all know, and I had the pleasure to listen to missionary in Charlotte when when that particular situation was being taught, and he brought some great points out, and I really enjoyed myself listening to him. The 4 articles that the regular clothing that the regular priests wear, and it's 8 articles of clothing that the high priests wear. Now, he used 2 terms for turbans, and one they use for the regular priest, and the other one they use for the high priest. And the term that's used for the high priest, the turban would be wrapped similar to what I have on, and that's fashion. Not that I'm a high priest, far removed from that, but it'd be more of a lower cut type turban, whereas the ones that go upward would be more for the regular priest. So there's hence 2 different terms for those that have followed the Hebrew terms that's mentioned in the book. But what's interesting is that the priest garment, this is the first time that we read about that you must, if you really get close to God, have some sort of uniform if that's your job on a daily basis. Before that, the guy acted as a priest. What he dressed, how he dressed, we're not sure. Was it just a plain linen garment? Was it a silk garment? Was it some elaborate robe? We got details of people that are supposed to be acting, and worshiping, but with us, when it comes to serving the Creator of heaven and earth, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and as the rules came down to the prophet Moshe, that this priesthood, the high priest, his outfits got to be for glory and splendor. So that tells us that when we come before the Creator, that we should try to, he could see us, inwardly better than we could see ourselves, but we make a good presentation. And it's all about presentation for glory and for splendor. So that's one of the things that we look at when we talk about a uniform, that the priest, he's born a priest, but he cannot function as a priest without the uniform on. And especially that of the high priest with the 8 articles. What I'd like to point out too also that the katona that he has, the actual outer garment, that it has bells and pomegranates all the way around, which I spoke on briefly in Charlotte. And that when you talk about bells and pomegranates, it doesn't talk about fringes, tzitzis, as we call it, on the 4 corners. It was a round bottom, solid, all the way around, with a bell, a pomegranate, a bell, and a pomegranate. And you say, well, why is that fruit? Why do you use that particular fruit? Now, I don't know for sure because I never took the time to count. But according to those that might have, did some research, left on record, that fruit actually has 613 seeds in it of a well-developed pomegranate. Hence, referring back to 613 laws, statutes, and judgments in the book. But the bell makes a sound, and as the priest moves about, his bells are ringing on him as a garment. So what it's trying to convey, in one sense, is that holiness should be exhibited and promoted. Wickedness should be suppressed. So even though I can't see what the priest is doing while he's functioning inside the holy area, I know that long as some bells and stuff are ringing, he's doing some holy work for the Creator. And hence, that we also should learn about our character and about our morals, is that our immorality should be constantly suppressed, silent, eliminated, whereas the clanging, the ringing, the sounds that's being emulated should represent holiness, and that should be exhibited more openly. And let's look, there's another item I like to just bring out and there, just to be brief, because I want to touch on a little bit on Ki-Tisa as well. When I talk about the actual ephod that the priests wear, and then the two onyx stones. Well, the ephod itself was actually like what you consider a breastplate that he wore upon him, and it's attached to two stones, onyx stones. But instead of going to the details without the visuals, I want to go to some of the some symbolisms that could be conveyed with from these two things. That on the ephod, you had 12 stones, all right, 3 in a row, 4 rows, all right, of stones, 3 in a row. But on the thing that the actual piece, the 2 piece that he put on his body to hold it there, all right, was onyx stones. And on the onyx stones, he had the names of the children of Israel. And what's interesting is that the names of the children of Israel is not only written on those stones, but it's also written on the stones that he put on in the breastplate. And you say, well, you would question, why would you put the names on the stones that he had already, the 2 stones on each strap on the shoulder on both sides, and then put the names on the stones on the individual stones for the 3 in a row to 12 stones? What would that be necessary? And why one would be more towards the heart and the other one towards the shoulders? And it tells you at the very end, and Aaron shall bear their names before the Lord upon his 2 shoulders for a memorial. But what lesson can we learn from that? And within the breastplate, you had it's always a controversy whether it's some stones or a piece of wood that was in there that he would try to get information from. But I'm not going to speak on that at length now. My point is, I want to talk about the stones and the names on the stones, and why would it? And the breastplate had to be fit and tied in place where it don't bounce off. Like I might have a jewel that bounce off my chest like this. It had to be tied in. And when we get to this particular verse here, and it says the Exodus. I'm coming from Exodus, the 28th chapter, the 21st verse. And the stones shall be according to the names of the children of Israel, 12 according to their names, like the engraving of a signet, everyone according to his name. They shall be for the 12 tribes. All right. Now, these is what's on those individual stones that covers, some is, ruby, some is amethyst, some is, topaz, those for the tribes of Israel, all right, on the breastplate. All right, and thou shalt make them upon the breastplate plated chains of wreathen work of pure gold. And thou shalt make upon the breastplate 2 rings of gold, and shall put the rings on the 2 ends of the breastplate. All right, but what I find interesting in there, let me just go ahead. I might have went a little bit too fast to skip. Just give me a moment. I'm just going back over. All right. Just something we change. Okay. Now, what is interesting is that on the actual onyx stone, all right, on onyx stone, when they put it up there, it says not only the name should be written there, but it should be written, according to their birth. Now, why is it that they have 12 names that say, I just write the 12 names down. And when it comes to the second part of the stone, and then when it was making the onyx stone, it says according to their birth. And one of the reasons is the balance. If you write down every tribe's name, this is something for people to do. Every tribe's name. When it comes to the tribe of Benjamin, according to their birth, when it comes to the tribe of Benjamin on those two stones, you have 24 letters on one and 25 on the other. So one of the answers are giving for, and you could just do it on a piece of paper yourself, write down the names of the 12 tribes on the paper and count up how many letters on it. But Benjamin in Genesis, when his name is written with full letters. It has an extra letter in it. And that's the only time it's written with the, one of the times it's written with the full letter. So when you write the name Benjamin in its full letter, if it's going according to the birth, then when it gets to the second part, it'll be 25 letters on one stone and 25 letters on the other stone. So it'll make it a balanced stone on his shoulders. So one side won't be dominating the other. You only will find that in Genesis. I thought that was, something to pay attention to when it's just only mentions about according to the birth after the second stone of the onyx stone. Whereas on the stones for each tribe, you just write their names for each tribe, according, on there in the rows. All right, so now when we go, I also like to bring out about the altar, because it closes off and talks about the altar of incense in that particular portion. And the altar of incense have an extra meaning. That's why it's brought out here. And when it's brought out in reference to the altar of incense, which I'm going to touch on when we get to go over YAH a little bit. Not so much a Peko Day, but more so on YAH. That the altar incense has a dual purpose. It doesn't, where that's why it's done later. Because also, unlike the other altars, this altar itself is sprinkled with a particular blood, and it's made an atonement for the priest and for his people yearly, for his family, yearly throughout the generations, as it says in the 30th chapter, the 10th verse. It says, and Aaron shall make an atonement upon the horns of it once in a year with the blood of the sin offering. An atonement once in a year shall he make atonement for it throughout your generation. It is most holy unto the Lord. And that particular altar, unlike any other altar, when it was sanctified and made holy, anything that touches it became holy. So that brings the altar incense on another level. Now, there's another thing I like to bring up before I go on to Ki-Tisa a little bit. In Ki-Tisa, we have before we get to Ki-Tisa, we have the altars. We have the table, a showbread, right, for the showbread to go on. We have in the holy area, but then we have the golden altar, which is the altar incense, and we have the actual altar outside. All right. But then when we talk about the ark, we talk about crowns. There were just 2 items that have a crown. 3 actually. The Ark of the Covenant has a crown, and it says a crown upon it, as opposed to the table of showbread, right, which has a crown for it. And we have the golden altar, which has a crown for it. Now, what those 2 things might represent, the table of showbread, you have the golden altar, And then you have the Ark of the Covenant. Well, the bread is supplied by the people. It's the grain, and it's supposed to represent the 12 tribes. You have two types of rulership. You have a priesthood rulership, and you have the king rulership. So the symbolism between the tables is that we have the king rulership represented by the table or showbread, where the showbread is on. And you had the priest rulership and leadership represented by the altar of incense. Now, what's so unique about those two areas is that if your father is a king, if you're the son of a king, one day you will become a king automatically. If your father is a king and you're the son of the king, you become a king. If your father is a Kohen, a priest, one day you become you become a priest because you're born into it. But when they talk about the Ark of the Covenant, it says, and they use the word zer, which is for the crown, and they use it on it, upon it, whereas the other says lo for it. Well, that crown is, and within that ark, it has the tablets, which is the Torah, what we're supposed to live by as a rule and guide to our faith and practice. So if we're supposed to live by those particular tenets there, that means that I just can't pass that to my son and he got it and perform it. He got to adapt that. Whereas a king could pass his crown to his son. A priest could pass his position and clothes and everything to his son, such as Aaron. When he was getting ready to die, his clothes was removed, put on his son. David anointed King Solomon in his presence to put on the crown. Whereas when it comes to Torah study, Torah learning, and Torah practice, that's something that the individual got to put upon himself. It can't be something that somebody else put upon you. So hence, the thing is that your father may be a priest, your father may be a king, prince, rabbi, Cohen, more. That don't mean you're going to get it like that until you apply it to yourself. So hence, the only crown that says upon it is the Ark of the Covenant, where the tablets are, where the cherubims is over, where, as opposed to the other items that has a crown for it. So I'll be visiting those areas later on as we go through the Sidra. Like I said, from Exodus the 25th chapter to the 40th chapter, 13 chapters are dedicated to the actual building of the Mishkan, and then centers around the Mishkan and the priesthood. So we're going to go into, I just want to highlight a couple of things in Ki-Tisa, and that starts from Exodus the 30th chapter, the 11th verse. And the Lord spoke unto Moses, saying, when thou takest the sum of the children of Israel according to their number, then shall they give every man a ransom for his soul unto the Lord, when thou numberest them, that there be no plague among them, when thou numberest them. This they shall give everyone that passes among them that are numbered, half a shekel after the shekel of the sanctuary. The shekel is 20 gerahs, which is a term, a measurement that was used at one time. They don't use it beyond that time. Half a shekel for an offering to the Lord. All right, now, also later on, the half a shekel is for the men of war, and it's supposed to be, it's told what it's going to be used for. But the half the shekel the guys from 20 years old and upward give is different from the half shekel that the whole community gives yearly. During that's something, another half shekel that's given yearly, and it speaks a little bit more on it during the time of Shekalim. And and we'll be coming up on that. But that's for the upkeep and maintenance overall. The guys that's 20 years old and upward at this time that's given this half shekel, since the book is not always in a chronological order, is reference to those that's going to war. If you go on perhaps take a life, then are you worthy to take the next individual life as opposed to losing yours to him? So when a person is being counted, one of the things about, and it's interesting when it's talking about, Ki-Tisa for that particular word for count itself. We have a term later on called Nasik, which lift up the heads or count the heads, in numbers, which is basically the same root. What we find here is that if you count somebody, you're looking at him thoroughly. Are he worthy? Well qualified? Do we have a lot of skeletons in the closet? Is it a corrupt individual? So when the counters come, the Creator was the focus on the silver, the metal, that's not tainted, as opposed to the individual character of the individual, where you can find some fault. We can find fault when we look hard enough. So that's the difference between those particular shekelims that's mentioned there. Now we go into the Exodus 30th chapter, 11th verse, and it talks about when we talked about the shekels. I'm gonna skip over it a little bit, and I want to bring out some other points in here about the holy anointing oil, and it gives you the definition of the composition of it, of the oil. But on the 31st chapter of Exodus, it said, "And the Lord spoke unto Moses, saying, See, I have called by name Bezalel, the son of Uri, the son of Hur, of the tribe of Yehudah, or Judah, and I have filled him with the Spirit of God in wisdom and in knowledge, and in wisdom and in understanding and in knowledge, in all manner of workmanship, to devise skillful works, to work in gold and in silver and in brass and in cutting of stones for setting and in carving of wood, to work in all manner of workmanship. And I, behold, have appointed with him Aholiab, the son of Ahisamach, of the tribe of Dan. And in the hearts of all that are wise-hearted, I put wisdom, that they may make all that I commanded thee." All right. Now, what's unique is that most people figure this guy had no skill like that at all. When you fill something up, that means something's already there. He just enhanced it. What made these artisans so great, greater than the one that Solomon had, greater than this guy that Solomon sent for, was Hiram, who was an Israelite. What made him greater than him was that he had a natural skill, the one that Solomon had, and these guys had skill, that was endowed greater than what they normally possess. And also that this Hiram was able to see plans. He's seen things built similar before. So the temple that Solomon built was basically similar to a lot of ancient places of worship. These guys never seen anything like this before under this design. Moses was shown this in the mountain. So it's like a sketch artist in the police department. They had to listen to what Moses said and envision what he wanted. That's how great they was. That Moses didn't come back with a blueprint. While most people build with a blueprint, these guys had to have a spiritual insight to understand exactly what Moses wanted and be able to do. And they had the power to teach. Some people have skills only for themselves. They don't have the power or the skill to teach. That's why some people, everybody's commanded to teach something, but everybody is not a teacher. So, but these guys here, they had that skill to be able not only to do the job, but also bring up apprentices in that job. And that's what he said. And also other people had certain skills level as well, where the one that Solomon sent for, his main field was brass. These guys here, their field is wherever you need, I could do it. I could put it together. I can make it happen. So hence, though the Temple of Solomon was bigger and seemed more grander, what is much more grander here is that these guys didn't have nothing to model it after. And they had to see it, and they built it from scratch. Another question I like to leave on the table. Most of the items in the boards that's used, the wood, the sheeting wood, some books might translate it as acacia wood. Where did they get the wood from and the place they located at? Of course, we know when Solomon wanted lumber and timber, he made a pact with Hiram of Tyre, and he had to get all his timber from the forest of Lebanon. So these beams, when we look at how many cubits height it was, and how many cubits wide it was, and the thickness thereof, and it's not like you're going to have a half a beam if you need 10 cubits, and you're going to say, oh, I got only 5 cubits here. I'm going to nail this together and extend it to that. These had to be cut perfect, and they had to be large enough, tall enough, where one board is not a combination of 2 boards stacked up on top of each other, or 2 boards going the width, making it wide enough. So therefore, that brings out the question, where do they get all that cedar? And then it's obvious that they had it, but did they bargain for it? And if they bargained for it throughout the natives, then you have to say, well, is this good wood? Is there termites in this wood? Or any bugs in this wood? Because it's supposed to be for a holy item. Or did they bring the wood with them? And if they brought the wood with them, what made them think, what's the reason for them bringing the wood? So a lot of questions be, brought out about not just the material and not just the building, but some of the material. What made the people think about getting all this here type of dye? Wool dyed this way, yarn dyed that way, linen, gold making it into thread. So these are some of the wonders here that comes in making of the tabernacle. All right, we're gonna go just a little bit further, and after it talks about the spices and all that stuff, in the 12th verse of the 31st chapter, it says, and the Lord spoke unto Moses, saying, speak thou also unto the children of Israel, saying, verily you shall keep my Sabbaths, for it is a sign between me and you throughout your generations, that you may know that I am the Lord who sanctify you. You shall keep the Sabbath keep the Sabbath therefore, for it is holy unto you. Everyone that profaneth it shall surely be put to death. For whosoever doeth any work therein, that soul shall be cut off from among his people. All right. Now, just the first time you read about the Shabbat having a death penalty. Right now, first time. And then it goes on, but what's unique about the Shabbat, it gives a reason. 6 days shall work be done, but on the 7th day is a Sabbath of the Solemn West, holy unto the Lord. Whosoever doeth any work in the Sabbath day, he shall surely be put to death. Wherefore, the children of Israel shall keep the Sabbath, to observe the Sabbath throughout their generations for a perpetual covenant. It is a time between me and the children of Israel forever. For on 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth. And on the 7th day he ceased from his work. So one lesson we're supposed to learn is that even an important undertaking of building a tabernacle, and all the parts and all of the prescribed pieces are in place. It said when the Shabbat comes, leave that alone. It's over with. You know, because and it's so severe. Now, what is interesting is that we wasn't there when he created heaven and earth, but the creator saying this is what he did. He ceased from his work and rested, you know. So that's the difference on it. And it says the sign. So what is the sign? That we recognize that God is a creator of everything and he's a sustainer of all. But it doesn't go on to explain. You know, when we go back, it says, everyone that profaneth it shall be put to death. One, it don't tell you how you're going to be put to death. Two, all right, we know it don't work. But how is not working or working profaning the Shabbat? So those are things, to think about and consider and run through the various leaders. In the 18th verse, it says, and he gave unto Moses, when he had made an end of speaking with him upon Mount Sinai, 2 tables of the testimony, tables of stone written with the finger of God. So I find that important in the sense that no other religion that I could think of said they ever got a contract from their God. That's written down. No other religion I could think of. Even those that might, look at the guy in the New Testament, he scribbled something in the sand and they asked what it is and he just wiped it up. The finger of God, when people say the scriptures were written by man, oh yeah, we got to agree. Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, etc., were written by man. But the covenant and the rules and regulations, in a nutshell, in a summarized, abbreviated form, was written by the creator of heaven and earth. So we should feel proud that the creator took time. He could have just, and later on, they say you're going to inscribe it in our hearts, but he inscribed it on stone in first, so we could visualize and look at it. So that is something great that we consider. And all this detail, Moses, now we're going back and forth in time. All this information Moses is getting on the mountain for 40 days. And when the people thought he delayed, but when we get into the 32nd chapter, and it said, when the people saw that Moses delayed to come down from the mount, the people gathered themselves together unto Aaron and said unto him, up, make us a God who shall go before us. For as for this Moses, the man that brought us up out of the land of Egypt, we know not what has become of him. Now, what is strange about this is that we just read Moses didn't hang around because he wanted to take a break after 40 days being up there. It said after the creator is speaking. So imagine the creator talking to somebody for 40 days straight. No bathroom breaks, no water breaks. And you up there for 40 days straight. And the creator constantly talking. How much do the creator need to tell you in 40 days? Or how much could the creator possibly tell you in 40 days? Or the creator had to slow it down, way, way down, so that your body could hold all that information and never forget one dot or tittle of what's being transmitted. When the creator teach, he's the teacher of teachers. When the creator give you a message, you will never forget the message. But then you still say, why it took them so long to give that message to Moses for 40 days when he could have snapped his finger. And that's it. Moses, you got it? All right, head on back down there in one day. But then we ask the same question. Why take 6 days to make the heavens and earth when you could have did it in one day? So these are things, that, we have these different discussions concerning. But they went to Aaron. That those that follow the story, Aaron and Hur was left in charge of the camp when Moses ascended the mountain. We don't read about Hur here. But I like to bring out some things because a lot of times we get caught up in projects. And the project is this. It said the people gather themselves together. We don't say what kind of people. We all assume the Israelites. That's number one. And also what we find out that when they gather around Moses, what we find out is this problem here. Around Aaron, excuse me. When they gather around Aaron, we find out this problem here. Aaron and Hur was left in charge. What happened to Hur? And they said, right now, it's not so much to replace the God, the revelation we had 40 days ago. We need to replace this guy that brought us out because we don't know what happened to him. So we make us an image, but we think automatically that it's going to replace the creator. But people are going to worship it like the creator going to work through this guy or this image, this stone or this guy, this golden piece, which we know later on was a calf, like it worked through Moses. So one of the things is that, and Aaron said, unto the break off the golden earrings which are in your ears of your wives, of your sons, and of your daughters, and bring them unto me. It's like a store tax it to me, because he's telling each man to do that, whoever to do that. And all the people broke off the golden rings which were in their ears and brought them unto Aaron. Words, we used to say in BINAH, have meaning and power. He told them to get it from your sons, your wives and daughters, etc. And plus your own self. But you find out that they only brought the earrings from themselves, from the wording here. That means they didn't get them from their wives. They didn't get them from their children. All right, just to speed up just a little bit, I'd like to bring out some more points here. And they received it at their hand and fashioned it with a graven tool and made it a molten calf. And they said, this is thy God, O Israel. So now, if it says they say this is thy God, O Israel, that means Israelites still on the sideline. Still on the sideline. So I'm just going to stop there because somebody, they taught it already, but in that particular portion. But they're still on the sideline. And when they're still on the sideline, you got 600,000 men of war. 600,000 men of war. 600,353, I believe, something like that. We know the end of the story. 3,000 people were slain in the sin of the golden calf. So that's a ratio of roughly 200 to 1. 200 non-participants to each one that's participating. So with odds like that, that's not participating, not fully down with the program, how did this program go down? People still on the sideline. Could it be, well, I want to see how it's going to play out? I wonder what's going on. Was Aaron going to stand up? And it's all, some people get hyped and make you think that they want to do something for the greater good of worship. I want to get more holy. I want to be more sanctified. I want to be closer to God. We need something to motivate us to be more holy, more sanctified, more closer to the Creator. But you got 200 to 1 that say, we're just going to stand by. And the only way evil could prosper is when good people refuse to do anything about it. So when it said thy God, so Israel, that means that it's somebody outside of Israel talking about this gonna be your God. Why we got to get a God pushed upon us by somebody else when God already talked with us 40 days ago directly, and we selected a guy to go get information for us? How quickly we change. But I just want to skip on down because that's pretty long. We know that, Moses came down, broke the tablets and everything like that, and asked Aaron what happened. So when we know the story, he had to go back up and pray. But one of the things when he prayed for our forgiveness, he said, well, okay, I'd like to ask bring this last question out without reading the whole thing. So if Moses going to ask God to forgive them, why kill 3,000 people in the first place? That's something to consider. If I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to ask God to forgive y'all because y'all did such a great sin, but we're going to kill 3,000 people. So all our stories always take a little bit more time sometime to look into it. And if those people wasn't worthy of forgiveness, then we'll make the other people worthy of forgiveness. You got the ringleaders, but what make Israel and why Israel bear the responsibility for the other people? If I didn't participate, I stood by, but silence is condoning. It's almost like you say, those that vote for issue, raise your hand. Those that vote against, raise your hand. Those that abstain, they don't even raise their hand. When you abstain from something, that means that whatever it is, you are right with it. So you're condoning it in that sense. All right, but here we get the famous apologetic words in Moses' great revelations that's supposed to be greater than the 40 days that he was up there getting those commandments. Can you imagine that this revelation that he's getting ready to do now, it's greater than the first 40 days? And yet, if we calculate, it's about 40 days at 3 times. But anyway, at this particular junction here, when he gets the tablets himself from the Creator, that this episode here is greater than the first time when he went up. So what we learned from that story pretty much is that when you first come into this way of life, those that first time find themselves in knowledge of Israel, those that might first get involved in any kind of studies or anything in life, whether it's this way of life or not, anything you first get into that you're excited about, and the excitement trickles down, trickles down, trickles down, trickles down, then we're going to build it back up. So if you got a campfire that's blowing up, 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 up strong, when God spoke with us, it was the theatrical, earthquakes, mountain smoking. You had thunder and lightning, blam, dum, 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 dum. They said they seen thunder, however that was. And then, when they'd seen all that, 4 days later, I'm off my high. I'm off my zeal for this God. I need to get a replacement move. I need a new boost. This is human nature. Just the way we are. We get into things, we be excited at first, a process of time, that excitement dwindles. It's like people coming to Shabbat. When they first get in knowledge of themselves, they come regular all the time, over and over again. Want to be there, the first one there. Want to stay focused, don't want to nod, don't want to miss a word. Then it starts to trickle down after a while. I heard that story before. What they going to say different, what they going to say new. Well, your job, if you had the excitement in the first place, is make sure before the fire go out, like the fire on the altar and like the light, you know, the near Tommy, the light that stays on, that you keep some kindling wood there. You make sure it's enough wood that the fire never, ever go out. And that way you could build back up. Because if your fire go out, there's no building up. You have nothing to start on. But that fire that you got, you never let it burn out. So now we got the thing where Moses had this revelation. I just want to read just a little bit before I go into Haftarah. And it says, the Lord said, well, basically, I'll pick it up from the 12th verse a little bit. And Moses said unto the Lord, see that thou sayest unto me, bring up this people, and thou hast not let me know whom thou wilt send with me. Yet thou hast said, I know thee by name, and thou hast also found grace in my sight. Now therefore I pray thee, if I have found grace in thy sight, show me now thy ways, that I may know thee, to the end that I may find grace in thy sight, and consider that this nation is thy people. And he said, my presence shall go with thee, and I will give thee rest. And he said unto him, if thy presence go not with me, carry us not up hence. For when now shall it be known that I have found grace in thy sight, I and thy people? Is it not in that thou goest with us, so that we are distinguished, I and thy people, from all the people that are upon the face of the earth? After Moses, been already talking up, I'm not going to go through the whole thing because they heard it pretty much. But I like everybody to go back over that particular portion, the bargaining area. If Moses, working on, if God is trying to say, if God got an eagle, is Moses self-sacrificing? And be such self-sacrificing why he killed people in the first place? All this stuff here, issues, psychological and social, you got to ask, and there's a spiritual side as well. In the 17th verse, it says, and the Lord said unto Moses, I will do this thing also that thou hast spoken, for thou hast found grace in my sight, and I know thee by name. And he said, show me, I pray thee, thy glory. And he said, I will make all my goodness pass before thee, and I will proclaim the name of the Lord before thee, and I will be gracious to whom I will be gracious, and will show mercy on whom I will show mercy. And he said, thou canst not see my face, for man shall not see me and live. All right. Now, one of the things is, I like this chapter, which brings out a lot of stuff here, is that if, Moses himself, always said, created going to be gracious. In some religions, people say, well, you do everything, God going to forgive you. Well, not so. And this is the God we talk about. That he would, in the 13 attributes, I'm just going to read those attributes that's read on all the Shalom Regalim, the pilgrimage times like Passover, the Shabbos during that time, or like Shavuot and Sukkot, all right, and also his regular cycles. Other times, in the synagogue, when they open up the ark. I'm just going to read the part where it says, Moses made another set of stones here. And let me see. Get him on the mountain. All right, the 6th verse. And it said, and the Lord passed before him and proclaimed, the Lord, God, merciful and gracious, long-suffering, abundant in kindness and truth, keeping mercy unto 1,000 generations, forgiving iniquity and transgression and sin, that will by no means clear the guilty, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children and upon the children's children into the third and fourth generation. And Moses made haste and bowed his head towards the earth and worship. All right, so that's why I'm gonna stop there. But we know that Moses came down with, with the second set of tablets, face beam, and then being the first time, and that's when he carved it up and brought it up. Now, I like to go into the Haftarah. There's a lot of questions I could have brought in on Ki-Tisa, but just for the sake of time, I read the Haftarah, which is from First Kings. Now, the Ashkenazims, those that follow that particular mincha custom, do the chapter for First Kings 18 chapter, verse. And for the sake of time, I'm gonna pick it up pretty much just from the 16th, though the Sephardim started the 20th. I'm gonna pick it up in the 16th verse. All right, I'm just give you some backdraft. All right, so it'll be First Kings 18th chapter, but I'm gonna pick it up in the 16th verse and take it to the 39th. What's interesting is that Ahab, the king, had a wicked wife, and he was wicked. She ran things, and children of Israel was into all kind of idol worshipers. So that's the correlation between idol worshiping later on, 1,000 years later, as compared to the golden calf episode. But Israelites is involved, but you also, another similarity is that you got outside influence. You got this mixed multitude that pushed up the golden calf situation, though you had the high priest Aaron involved in doing it, and Israelites standing on the sideline. You had that became responsible for it, that you had outside influence. Jezebel is a foreigner married to Israelite king, and she had her own prophets. So that's outside influence again, as well as we worshiping other gods. So now it was famine in the land for 3 years. We know that Ahab looked for this prophet called Elijah. We're not sure what's his who he's descended of. We just know that there's one prophet that never died, was taken up live. One of the prophets that was told to return. But anyway, in this term here, he had fled for a while. So I'm not going to go through the whole story about him, but it's an interesting character. And so 16th verse, it says,
Hallelujah. You want me to read?
So, yeah, 16. Yeah, yes.
We're in the book of First Kings. We're in the book of First Kings, chapter 18, verse 16. Hallelujah. So Obadiah went to meet Ahab and told him, Ahab went to meet Elijah. And it came to pass, when Ahab saw Elijah, that Ahab said unto him, Is it thou trouble of Yisrael? And he answered, I have not troubled Yisrael, but thou and thy father's house, in that ye have forsaken the commandments of Jehovah, and thou hast followed the Baalim. Now therefore, send and gather to me all Israel unto Mount Carmel, and the prophets of Baal 450, and the prophets of the Asherah 400, and eat at Jezebel's table.
as a famine, and therefore it's somewhat of a drought. So when he's feeding these guys that is hiding, that's prophets, 100 of them, bread and water, that's like a luxury in a time of a famine. And that's a lot of times we cried out about that in the wilderness, bread and water. So now he took a serious chance, because if they had hidden, if they knew about it, not only he would have been killed, but the prophets would have been killed. So some suggestions why he just split them 50 and 50. He thought about Jacob. If one cave be discovered, at least 50 get away. They figured they killed enough people in one spot, so there can't be no more prophets left. Elijah going around saying, I alone am left of the prophets of the Lord. So far as he's concerned, there's nobody standing on the front line but him. But, the creator had to correct him after he said it, about 3 times too many. And what we learned from is a commentary in reference to nothing true, just one of the commentaries to make you think that Ahab asked Obadiah, because we read the beginning of this particular Haftarah, and the beginning of that chapter, he was a God-fearing man, and that's what he told Elijah. But Ahab said, if you're a God-fearing man and you're so righteous, how come God don't bless my household, since you over my household, like Joseph blessed Pharaoh and every place he worked, and like Jacob blessed Laban where he worked at? How come I'm not getting blessed if you're so righteous? And I'm wicked. They wasn't that great, but they say, well, you were the wicked. But Laban, he did invite Jacob in. With Pharaoh, he did invite the people in. Invite them in later on. And raise Joseph to a higher state. When Obadiah, he's there, and he had the same right, and same opportunity the king had, the same opportunity he had. And it shows the king still had influence, because Elijah told him, go get the people, not only the people of Israel, but also get those false prophets. So now let's look at a little bit further, and we pick it up at the 20th verse.
Verse 20, and Ahab sent unto all the children of Israel, and gathered the prophets together unto Mount Carmel. And Elijah came near unto all the people, and said, how long halt ye between 2 opinions? If Jehovah be God, follow him. But if Baal, follow him. And the people answered him not a word. Then said Elijah unto the people, even I only am left of the prophet of Jehovah, but Baal's prophets are 450 men. Let them therefore give us 2 bullocks, and let them choose 1 bullock for themselves, and cut it into pieces, and lay it on the wood, and put on fire under. And I will dress the other bullock, and lay it on the wood, and put no fire under.
The people can't figure out who's God. It's almost like some brothers say, well, I'm not sure I'm an Israelite. Some sisters say, I'm not sure I'm an Israelite.
Right.
All right, but are you sure about this God? Are you sure about this is the best way of life to live? So your identity may be a mystery, but is the true and living God, your knowledge of that, is that a mystery? And that's the difference. The people couldn't say a word. Similar, when they came up to Aaron and posted up with odds of 200 to 1, they let this atrocity go down. So now you got the nation, and Ahab is a powerful guy, because he not only got the wicked prophets, but he also got the nation of Israel to sit there. And who Elijah addressing? He addressing the nation of Israel. He's not concerned addressing the prophets. And he said they get 2 bullocks. Why at Carmel? The temple's still there. The temple's not destroyed. Why meet at Carmel? Well, Saul, the first king, offered sacrifice there and lost the kingdom there. Elijah himself hopefully would gain the kingdom closer to God, right there. And also the prophets of Baal could not come and work and participate in the sanctuary, being foreigners, being Gentiles, being idol worshippers, being defiled, being strange individuals. You know, they're not Levites and they're not priests. Hopefully, they're just straight up outsiders. All right, so we're going to pick up 24 first.
It says here, verse 24, and call ye on the name of your God, and I will call on the name of Jehovah. And the God that answereth by fire, let him be God. Let all the people answer, and all the people answered and said, it is well spoken.
Now, can you imagine? I'm not sure whose God is no more. I was told about this. I was told about that. It's been 3 years of famine. Now, what's ironic, that you got these years of famine going on, and yet these guys could call on God, supposed to have the power to call on God. And here you have Elijah say, I'm the last prophet, and I'm going to call on God. And the people say, whatever God answered by fire. Do you need fire or do you need water? Do you need food? So just to see a contest, they're looking for some kind of hope. Continue. 25th verse.
Verse 25 reads, and Elijah said unto the prophets of Baal, choose you one bullock for yourselves, and dress it first, for ye are many, and call on the name of your God, and put no fire under. And they took the bullock which was given them, and they dressed it, and called on the name of Baal from morning even until noon, saying, O Baal, answer us. But there was no voice, nor any that answered. And they danced in halting wise about the altar which was made. And it came to pass, yes.
They dance about halting wise and everything, whatever steps they was making in chant. All right, from morning until noon. So he let them go first. But one of the things I like to point out, it says they were supposed to choose a bullock. But it was the subtlety here is that Elijah, they got the bullock that Elijah gave them. So whereas, you know, and one of the things that I usually teach in reference to that, not necessarily from the platform of D.C.B, but that the bullock, though it's going to be sacrificed, had enough sense to know who's more godly and who's not godly, who's serving the true and living God, who's not serving the true and living God. So therefore, out the two bullocks, Elijah had to give them one of them because they couldn't, the bullock would not go with them. They're supposed to choose. And it said, they took the bullock that was given them as opposed to one that they took for themselves. So that's a subtlety there that we know that I was sharing with my son a while back when it says, an ox knows his master and an ass his master's crib. And I asked him the question, I said, which one is more intelligent, the ox or the jackass, the donkey? And he said, the ox, because he knows his master. And I said, I think it would be the jackass that's more smarter. And he said, I don't see it. The master, jackass doesn't know the crib. And I use the example. The ox, because most people think the jackass being dumber than the ox, instead of the ox. The ox knows when he sees somebody that looks like his master, that's it. That's him, that's my master, because I see him now. And I use the example but the ass know where he live at. So that means he could be somewhere and he could go back home.
Right.
So I said that a child, they know their parents. Once they see him, they run to him. But you put them down the street and let them run down the block, They're going to pass by the house because they don't know where house it is. You tell them, hey, where you going? Where you going? Come back here. This is where we live at. So, and that's a child. So they know the parents. They ain't going to forgive because it's in sight and mind. They identify. But where you live at. So hence, I'm saying that to say this. In order for us to really know the Creator, we got to know where to meet Him at, where to go to. Hence, we talk about the mishkan. And later, some Haftarah were talking about the temple itself. You know, we spent a lot building this mishkan, a dwelling place for a holy spot, space and time for the Creator, so that He would dwell within us and not within the place. But at least we know how to go to the place, and we need answers, and that takes a certain type of maturity. So we're gonna pick it up. From here.
Verse 27. Verse 27. And it came to pass at noon that Elijah mocked them and said, cry aloud, for he is a God. Either he is musing, or he is gone aside, or he is in a journey, or peradventure he sleepeth up and must be awaked. And they cried out.
Imagine, you know, that one of the great things we have is when we call, we know we got a hotline straight to the Creator. We ain't got to dial 411 to get information. There's a 911 call, but I need 411 to get information, and then I might have to know the extension. We don't have to do that without God. You know, we go directly to the Creator, you know, on our knees and pray to the Creator. We look to Him, you know, from whence cometh our help. So that's the difference. Where if you say, if God is asleep, then who's running things? How things going? Who's in charge? If God is asleep, that means justice is asleep as well. If God is asleep, that means there's no such thing as anything existing. But yet they don't see that. If the God is asleep, that means He became weary. Let's read a bit further.
Verse 28 reads, and they cried out loud and cut themselves after their manner with swords and lances till the blood gushed out upon them. And it was so when midday was past that they prophesied until the time of the offering of the evening offering, but there was neither voice nor any to answer, nor any that regarded. And he
That's the day the priests offer up an offering. All right. So when they started, you know, I mean, we got, you know, in most places say a shakari service, which is a dawn. You know, then you got bokeh, which is a morning. But, you know, you got sohraim, which is a noonday. You know, but you have what you call afternoon day, called a mincha offering, and sometimes they say a mincha prayer. They combine with the the Erev prayer for the evening. So we know right then and there that when Elijah, when he getting ready to do his thing, not only he gave plenty of enough time, but he's waiting patiently for the right time to bring this offering in a place outside of the place where God had caused His name to dwell. That means that not only that the temple was still erected at the time, but the thing was that nobody was minding the house, keeping the house, using the house. So therefore, this mountain is in the sight of everybody here, you know, where the prophets could function, and they built a particular altar that's separate from that of the altar that's within the place. All right, let's read a little bit further.
Verse 30. And Elijah said unto all the people, come near unto me. And all the people came near unto him. And he repaired the altar of Yehudah that was thrown down. And Elijah took 12 stones, according to the number of the tribes of the sons of Jacob, unto whom the word of Yehudah came, saying, Israel shall be thy name. and with the stones he built an altar in the name of Yahweh, and he made a trench about the altar as great as would contain 2 measures of seed. And he put the wood in order and cut the bullock in pieces and laid it on the wood. And he said, fill 4 jars with water and pour it on the burnt offering and on the wood. And he said, do it the second time. And they did it the second time. And he said, do it the third time. And they did it the third time. And the water ran around about the altar, and he filled the trench also with water. And it came to pass at the time of the offering of the evening offering that Elijah the prophet came near and said, O Yahweh, the God of Abraham, of Yitzchak, and of Yisrael, let it be known this day that thou art God in Israel, and that I am thy servant, and that I have done all these things at thy word. Hear me, O Yahweh, hear me.
About that word. This contest set it up like that? Or did Elijah come up with that on his own and say, all right, I hope, I'm going to do this and hope God is with me? So we read right in there, everything he set up and planned it. And he said, according to the time of the evening offering, that means that it's time now for the Creator to get that sacrifice that's normally due to him. And to get it from who he designated to get it from. But read from 37.
Verse 37 reads, hear me, O Yahweh, hear me, that this people may know that thou art, that thou, Yahweh, art God, for thou didst turn their heart backward. Then the fire of Yahweh fell and consumed the burnt offering, and the wood and the stones and the dust, and licked up the water that was in the trench. And when the people saw it, they fell on their faces, and they said, Yahweh, he is God. Yahweh, he is God.
That was there, the prophets of Baal, that was there. But one of the issues is that when the fire came down, the wood was really soaked. So imagine what kind of fire that is that come down. Now, this a man from the very beginning was able to call down fire from heaven, but how he did it, he said, if I be a man of God, let fire come down. So therefore, he said, if I be a man of God, so I need a testimony that I got some power. Here in this case, if you sent me, if I be the prophet that you sent, all this according to your word that you sent, and you cause the people's hearts to be turned around backwards, because a Creator allow you to do what you want to do, but you pay the consequences for what you do. It's almost like people today say, we got freedom of speech. Yes, and you got responsibility for what you say. And you're held accountable all the time for what you say and do. So I hope you got something out of it. Any mistakes been my own. And with that, I say Shalom Aleichem, Shabbat Shalom.
Nasik, a quick question. I see in the portion I see the usage of the word Baal. Now Baal was a term that was used to mean Lord. Am I correct?
Correct.
And also because from when you read, they say Hebrew derives from Phoenician, from a language of the Canaanites that were living in the land. So in terms of the word Baal, because I see it mentioned often in this chapter, and also I see sometime in the prophecy where it speaks about when the wife shall address her husband as Ba'ali, my master, right?
Right.
So if this word is being used, because today some people choose not to use the word God because they say it comes from I don't know, from some
Nordic,
Nordic, and from some Nordic thing. But it seems like in in the East and in the Tanakh, the usage of the word Baal, it seemed like it was acceptable depending on what it was meaning at that time. Do you feel like it was do you feel like the word God is like such a bad word that we should not use, or is it the same as how people used the word Baal back then? And the word Baal was, you know, the gods of some of the was the god or the word for God back then in the Phoenician language or in the Canaanite language, and all the people of the region used it, and it was something that was identified.
Well, it's obvious I don't find a problem using it because I use the word God a lot.
Right.
And also, I don't have a problem mentioning Baal here. It's written in the
Right.
book. And
Right.
you know, in the prophecy, you no longer call me Baali, but you call me Ishi. But instead of
Ishi.
saying my master, you would say my man, my husband. In that sense. So one is like, all right, I belong to you, but we're not in a real good relationship. Whereas if you say Ishi, we're in a good relationship,
Right.
you know, like a husband and wife. All
Right.
right. And also, when they talk about the language, you know, the Canaanite language and all that, of course, they had a similar dialect in the land of Canaan. Remember, the first high priest of the Most High God was some guy they called Melchizedek. And Abraham recognized him. All right? And he said, El Elyon was the Most High God. That's what he said. El Elyon in the book of Genesis. He didn't say Elohim. He didn't say the tetragrammaton, you know, he didn't say none of that kind of stuff. You know, that's what he said. And Abraham gave him a tenth and recognized him as that. And he blessed Abraham. So now, I usually don't waste time, you know, I mean, debate with brothers on issues like that. And somebody definitely really want to know, you know, then I share an insight. But you have at the Tower of Babel, you had the language was confused, confound, and divided a little bit. Sometimes confused and also meant divided. So everybody have a piece of the holy tongue. And no matter what tongue you speak, no matter what language you speak, that you can approach God with a broken heart and a contrite spirit, no matter what your language is. And one of the things is we read clearly when when Jacob made a covenant with his father-in-law, and they swore by two different deities on a covenant. And he called it by the language and the name he said, you know, and Jacob called it by another name, you know, and at the covenant. So when people, if it's in the book, what it is when they talk about, you know, don't we bow the gods to people, and then, you know, what do that mean? You know, and or when they say, neither let it be heard out of mouth, don't curse the gods, or don't use the mother gods, not let it be heard out your mouth, not to let it be heard out your mouth. In that sense, that it's in context and reference to you pursuing worship it. How can you avoid something if you don't know what it is? And how can we even condemn a person for worshiping another God if we didn't know anything about that God? It's just like, how can we condemn a person to worship witchcraft if you don't know something of the witchcraft and tell you not to practice it, not to practice divination, not to practice sorcery, not to practice soothsaying and necromancy, all that stuff. But if somebody did it, then how am I going to judge you? And I'm going to judge if I don't know what you're doing. And that's, you know, that would put you outside of my jurisdiction because I don't understand what he's doing. And some of the stuff the prophets did, that they did as a sign to prove that they are a prophet of God, like Elijah and like various other guys, or like Gideon, or Hezekiah saying, look, it's easy for the sun dial to go forward 10 degrees, but let it go back 10 degrees backwards. All right. So, you would say, has a guy working some stuff back there? Before, a generation before that, it's into all kind of stuff in his family. So, I don't have a problem using stuff that's written in the book, because when you read the book, you're gonna read what's there. You ain't gonna say you're gonna blank it out. You ain't gonna blank it out. You're gonna blank it out. Let's talk about the only thing about when it says thou shalt not take the name of the God in vain, um, which became a traditional thing after the Babylonian captivity. Not to say Yehovah that much. It's because the more you say it, the less feel you have for it. But if it's definitely in a situation, and I always say when Jehoshaphat was fighting along his father-in-law, and he wore the royal apparel. So those that may not know who I'm talking about, might want to go in the Book of Kings. But anyway, it was a king of Judah fighting with, his father-in-law was king of Israel, and his father-in-law told him, "You wear your royal apparel, and I go in as a plain person." And then I think it was the Ammonites. The Ammonites was fighting with the nation of Israel, and they come after to get the leader said, "Fight with nobody but the king of Israel." So they putting pressure on this guy, and he fighting hard. It was armor bearer, and he said he cried out. He didn't say help, because the army's there. He looking for something beyond that help, which is the Creator. And so they say, he shouted the Creator's name and call upon him in his name, So it's nothing wrong with calling on the name of the Creator. And just that we just don't, I come from a school where we never said it that much. And I have that, that particular habit of doing it. But it's not only from some rabbinic circles, they don't say it at all, but it's a time when you must say it. And if you cry out and you definitely need some help, you better say something, and you just want to try to get all the power you can in it. So that, I hope that answered the question.
Yeah, that's interesting that you said that Melchizedek called them El Yom, right? Because
Right.
even like Shum Levy pointed out, also the word El was also a Semitic, was part of the Semitic language, and it was a god of the Canaanites, and I believe like the Syrians, and he was like the head of the pantheon of gods, and he and his consort was Asherah. So we also use the word El, right? And we understand when we say El, we understand which El we're speaking about, right? We're talking about Yehovah. So when we talk, when Melchizedek comes and said El Yom, Abraham already understood who he was talking about in specifics. Am I correct with that?
Very correct with that, because first of all, before he mentioned, Abraham, when you see Abraham recognized him as being, and the book described as the priest of the Most High God, priest, a king of Salem, priest of the Most High God. And Salem was an old term for Jerusalem, which Jerusalem is a place of peace, a abode of peace. That's what Jerusalem like an abode, and Shalom or Salam is peace. So it was a place of peace. And before that was just said peace, Shalom, Salem. And that individual himself being a king of righteousness, with the title and name meant at the time, that Abraham recognized him as being somebody above himself, because he wasn't about worshiping no other God. So,
okay, just wanted to,
and it's ironic that a lot of people had these little problems with issues like that. How you call the Creator, and as opposed to, are we doing what the Creator wants us to do? And that's the more important question. It's about, are we doing what He wants us to do? When the priests go in there and go in the Holy of Holies once a year and confess and pray, we don't know what words he's saying. We only know what words he say when he confess over the goat of Isaiah, all the sins of the people. But we don't know exactly how much prayer we got. We know what the priest's blessing is. We know that formula. We know we go in when we bring the first fruits and we say, our father was a wandering Aramean. He said, well, Jacob, a wandering Aramean. So, I guess we must, look for that, take the high road and look for more things that can enhance us instead of, denigrate a lot of, our zeal to try to be more holy in life.
Hallelujah. So to everyone online, we actually are on live. I don't know if you've noticed that at this point. So also, like I said earlier, I also acknowledge that Nasik had a 70th cycle around the sun last week. So we pray that the Most High God will continue to be with him. Everyone just show him love on the chat. He had his birthday last week. He was up in New York City. We enjoyed his presence. Like we always do, we always build and we laugh and we have a good time, as we should when the elder comes in the midst of us. So thanking you, Nasik, for your dedication and for the things that you do. Keeping me on point. When I miss out, you be ready to go regardless of where you at. I thought Nasik was going to take a break last week. He was ready. He was in New York City. He was like, my bro, I got a room ready. I'm ready to go. And I was just I was having some things really going on in the house, and I really couldn't concentrate. Yeah, so thanking the Most High God for your life.
My own also, I must say.
Yeah.
Any mistakes been my own, I must say as well. So any things that people want to question, please leave that in the comments. So I'll look it over and hopefully I'm able to correct it. Any mistakes been my own. With that as I say, enjoy and Shalom Aleichem.
Shalom Aleichem. Shalom, shalom, family.
Hallelujah. All praises due to the Most High Yah. My name is King Malachi. Salute to Chief Uziel. This for you. Jerusalem, I will never forget thee. Home of the mightiest army. Home of the mightiest temple. Built by King Solomon of Judah. Abraham, his grandpa, Isaac and Jacob, who dwelled in the land of Canaan, wearing linen or raiment. David be the house of King Mendawaya, be the chosen Messiah, father of King Josiah, who did what was right in the sight of the Most High. Mighty King Yahweh, master of all the planets, the one who blew breath in Adam, the one who chose Moses and Aaron to start the Levitical priesthood. Zion with the highest of priesthood, Zion, throne of David, King of Judah, land of the lion. Hey, lead me to Zion, throne of David, King of Judah, land of the lions. Yeah, listen. The number one squad, David and his mighty men, Joshua B. Eliezer, can't forget Abishai, who blooded 300 men. He was the captain of the lion's den. Can't forget Benaiah, who jumped in the pit with a lion, slew it on a snowy day. Hey, I got a rep for the lion on it. Y'all bless the spirit of my his heavenly power. My city rise again like a beautiful flower. My king be the champion. David been Jesse, read Psalms 89. We gods in the flesh, read Psalms 82. But we die like you do. Lead me to Zion, throne of David, King of Judah, Hand of the Lion. Lead me to Zion, throne of David, King of Judah, Land of the Lions. Yeah! Hallelujah! Praise the mighty Yah. Yeah, yeah, hey, 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 yeah. Look, I belong to Camel. Oh, white linen in his handle, yeah. Rock my drip like Louis Vuitton. Spiritually, I'm really done, yeah. White linen with his handle, yeah. I'm really done. White linen in his handle, rock my drip like Louis Vuitton. Spiritually, I'm really done. White linen with his handle, yeah. I'm really done. I've been loaded with them and the Ark of the Covenant. David and Solomon, yeah. Blessed with the melanin, I might look like a cherubim. God bless my intelligence, yeah. My robe look like purple, fringes in the bottom, that's royal blue like God said. Yeah, got my drip from out of this world. Wait, that's Pluto. Pharaoh them, they heard of me. Nebuchadnezzar heard of me. I got the blood of Joseph, I got the blood of Dan Joseph. We was in Babylon, even in Egypt, time of Joseph. All facts I speak for them. Even if they lost, I still speak for them. I belong in the camel. Hey. White linen with his handle, rock my drip like Louis Vuitton. Spiritually, I'm really done. White linen with his handle, yeah. I'm really done. Yeah. White linen with his handle, yeah. Rock my drip like Louis Vuitton. Spiritually, I'm really done, yeah. White linen with his handle, woo. I'm really done. I'm cut kinda different, Torah, different kind of linen. Deuteronomy 14, I stock my kitchen. Got my script from God, not no religion. Waiting for Dubai, it was dripping like that. Queen Sheba asked Solomon how you trip like that. Yeah, before she remembered the king, he prayed, Lord, y'all, she prayed the moon. She said, look at all y'all preaching, she wasn't impressed with how they grew. This is the truth, I never prayed to the moon, I never prayed to the sun. I am a son, ain't no changing me, my word here harder than gun. We resurrect someday, we will be up someday. That's Ezekiel 37, y'all should read someday. I belong in the camel, hey. White linen with his handle, rock my drip like Louis Vuitton. Spiritually, I'm really done. White linen with his handle, yeah. I'm really done. Hey. White linen with his handle, rock my drip like Louis Vuitton. Spiritually, I'm really done. Hey. White linen with his handle, yeah. I'm really done. Hallelujah.
I want to pray.
Live today. Even thanking Chief Ooze for having me and putting this thing together so we could give glory to the Most High. I'm going to be singing Kavod, which means glory, because the Creator is truly due of all glory and praise. Hallelujah. Kavod le'ahu boreh, ha'aretz ve'hashamayim, ve'hayam gam, ve'kol be'olamo. Baruch haba Yehovah, hu noten lanu chayim. Bisfil zeh ani noten kavod, bezaman machala hu rofeh, bezaman man hara unotei בשביל זה אני נותן כבוד, 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 כבוד ליהו בורא הארץ והשמיים והים גם וכל בעולמו ברוך הבא יהוה הוא נותן לנו חיים בשביל זה אני נותן כבוד בזמן מחלה הוא רופא בזמן הרעב הוא נותן בשביל זה אני נותן כבוד 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 ליהו בורא הארץ והשמיים והים גם וכל בעולמו ברוך הבא יהוה הוא נותן לנו חיים בשביל זה אני נותן כבוד. Hallelujah.